start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll move on to attendance and a roll call. So, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one
nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty
and justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all. Thank you, everybody. Got it. So we'll do a quick roll call. Some things have changed, obviously, with Robert gone now. So AJ, not present. Robert is gone. Ben D'Amato,
Yeah.
Fred Ginter,
Yes,
and Jerry Ruggiero.
he's muted.
Jerry's here, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and myself and Gene Guerra was, no, he wasn't coming tonight. That he was from the Travis Civic Association. And I think that's it, unless I'm missing somebody, Deb.
Jordan Hafizi, but I don't see him on the screen.
No, I don't see him on my list either. Was he
He's new,
recently?
so
Okay, he's okay.
yeah,
All right, thanks, Deb.
you'll.
All right, so we have anybody public speaking that wants to speak before the presentation?
Yes, we have Mary Chaparino.
Yes,
Hello, Mary.
hello. Thank you all for giving me some time. Shall I start now?
Yes, you got 2
Okay.
minutes.
All right. Introducing myself, I'm a resident of Fahey Avenue since 1976. My home is across the street from Father Macris Park. Years ago, when the DOT proposed a park and ride on the property now designated as Father Macris Park, our community worked with then Councilman Fusco, his assistant, Jim Otto, the Greek Orthodox Church, Community Board 2, and the Parks Department to make sure it became a park and not a park and ride. At the time, the Parks Department promised a passive park with no lights and no permanent structures, especially toilets. This park, it's proved an asset to the community with very few problems. But we fear a bathroom would invite problems, especially one so close to the residences on Fahey Avenue. Will this bathroom be monitored while open, locked at night? Since the fountain, which is now called a sculpture, the dolphin fountain or sculpture, it was said to be inoperative due to problems with the water line. Will our homes have sewage problems from the construction of this bathroom? So we respectfully request that the plan for a bathroom be reconsidered in light of our concerns. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your input. And let's see what the park presentation holds as far as security hours and availability, how far away from the house it's going to be, and that. 'Cause I looked at it in maps today, and I thought it was on the other side of where the houses were. But when we see the presentation, we'll get to know it. Thanks, Mary. So
Okay, thank you.
who would like to begin from Parks?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chad McNeil. I'm a project manager with Parks in the Capital Architecture Division at the Capital Division of Parks. I can start the presentation. I don't know if anyone from the borough has anything to say before I begin. Borough Commissioner's Office. If not, I will share my screen and begin the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah, I would say let's go right into it and we'll address Mary's concerns as we go.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I thought I had this keyed up a little bit better. Can everybody see the screen okay?
It's up wide.
Okay, so tonight I'm going to be giving a short presentation on a pilot project that we're doing throughout the city called the Citywide Prefabricated Public Toilet Project, and it's otherwise known as the Portland Loo. And as discussed, we'll be speaking about Father Macris Park. So just briefly discuss the goals of the project and of this presentation is to support the citywide goal of providing more public restroom opportunities for city residents. And to to introduce this particular model, the Portland Loo is a lower cost option for us at parks to utilize throughout our park system. And which this provides us with a standardized modular or prefabricated building that we can use that reduces the design and construction durations than a typical comfort station. And this is a priority for us. And the intent for this pilot is to introduce one of these loos and a park in each borough. And images that you see here are from an installation in Hoboken, New Jersey. Kind of give you an idea of what the building is, and I'll get a little bit more into the components in a minute. But essentially, it's a prefabricated metal structure that has one toilet unit and a small mechanical space in the rear of the building. So the components, so what is the Portland Loo? Like I said, it's a prefabricated structure. It was designed in conjunction with the city of Portland, and it's implemented in cities throughout the United States. Most locally for us is there's a few in Hoboken, New Jersey, and in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And they're meant to be deployed in an urban environment. So it's a single occupancy toilet unit with one flushing toilet. It's ADA compliant. And there's a hand washing station on the exterior of the building. There is no sink on the inside. And these units, they are permanent structures and they're connected to water, sewer, and electric utilities. The water is heat traced for the toilet for year-round use. And what heat tracing means, it's the water lines are heated so that way it doesn't freeze and then allows for cold weather use for the toilet. And so because of the building is small, and I'll get into that in a minute, the water meters, electric meters, they'll be housed in a separate cabinet close to the loo. And Father Macris Park is a little bit different because we have already have an RPZ and water service and electric service coming into the park. The loo has a interior blue LED light that comes on when it's occupied, and it allows for nighttime use. And if you can kind of see in the lower right-hand photo, there's louvers, which allow for airflow. It's not a heated unit, and allows for some visibility into the unit for security reasons. So where we, to deploy these units, we have some criteria that we had to abide by. Placing utilities near placing the loos near the utilities to help keep the connection runs and the costs down. Place them in an open, visible location with high pedestrian traffic, and placing these on a park perimeter or along a busy pedestrian path, which allows for clear sight lines and minimizes the incidents for vandalism or uses that we would prefer them not to be used for. And I think we all know what we're speaking here. So here's a typical floor plan of the loo. It's like I said, a small structure. It's about a little over 9 feet by 5.5 feet wide. One toilet unit, which has a toilet, 8 standard grab bars, for ADA, toilet paper dispensers, trash receptacle, and a baby changing table. Here drawings of a couple of elevations, so you can kind of see the differences where the areas of the louvers and the solid panels. So, that does give just enough privacy for those of us that have to use it, but also allows for airflow and a little bit of visibility. So it deters people from wanting to spend too much time inside the unit. And as I spoke before, the units are going to be connected to the utilities and within separate cabinets. This is a little schematic drawing, just kind of showing the relationship of the utility connections. So they're not all going to be housed in one building. Here's a section view kind of showing the utility connections, and then also showing that, the units will come with, we will install floor drains to capture any runoff, and when the units are cleaned, that water flow will be contained within the unit. I may not have said this earlier, but these being a prefabricated metal building, we will be, they are placed on a concrete pad that will be installed on site. So they are, I said, an anchored permanent structure. So aerial view of Father Macris Park, which we're all familiar with. We picked a location like I said, close proximity to utilities and close proximity to what we feel is the primary users of the loo would be the ball players. And so the actual sighting is a little bit above where my red X is here. After visiting the site a few times, and we kind of revised that location a little bit. So it's along the pathway, again, near close proximity to the ball field. Here are two schematic renderings, a couple of images. These are going to be further developed as we go into design, but it just shows what the loo may look like along the path and in the park. You can kind of see from image number 2, the proximity to the ball fields, and we felt that placing the loo on the western side of the path was beneficial. On the eastern side, I'm sure you're familiar with the grassy area during this time of year seems to collect a little bit of water, so that made that unfeasible for us. And plus, parents and families coming out to watch the ball games probably are going to want to use that area for laying down blankets and whatnot. So the material of the loo, it's a extra stainless steel heavy gauge structure, and it's coated with an anti-graffiti epoxy coating that makes them very weather resistant, and if they were tagged, can be easily cleaned by parks maintenance. Again, getting back to the final images, so we can start our discussion. I know before I wrap up, I know typically people's the primary questions that we get in the community boards are operating hours and maintenance, and so I'll just kind of address those two quickly, and then I'll take questions. Maintenance will be done by our parks, Staten Island maintenance operations, daily maintenance. These are not maintained by an outside vendor or anything like that. And typically our operating hours would be our standard operating hours of a park. They will be locked at night, sometime in the evening hours, and maybe someone from operations might be able to chime in for the exact hours. I don't know, but typically around 5 o'clock-ish in the evening is when our comfort stations are generally locked up, unless there's a event or something like that that would necessitate them being opened longer. But that's our standards. And like I said, they'd be maintained by our parks operation division. So truck would pull up during the day, clean them, restock them, and that sort of thing. So at this point, I'll turn over for questions and can cycle through the images if anybody has any specific questions on any pages. Thank you.
And if you don't mind, I'd start. Now, Chad, originally you said you have the blue light on top for LED lighting at night.
Yeah, inside the unit.
Inside the unit. So
Yes, sir.
if it's locked at dusk to dawn, I'm assuming that's not going to be necessary, or that maybe you've got some early sunsets in the dead of the winter. But how do you lock it up at night?
So the door comes with a standard lock, like what we call a dormitory lock, right? That needs to be unlocked with a key. And we'll be installing our standard lock box, which is a steel contraption with a padlock that it's typical for our comfort stations. So our maintenance, when they'd come to lock up at night, it's has a deadbolt with a padlock.
Okay. And have you put any thought into having like any permanent lighting around it so that it's less subjective to people hanging out there or people vandalizing it?
Sure.
Or is that a detriment to the community having a light on something all the time? I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
mean, it's an interesting point, and I'm sure we'll get pros and cons from the community on this. Typically the idea is to place these where there's existing lighting. I know in this particular park we have the street lighting on Fahey, but there's no lighting within the park. We are not anticipating installing any lighting in the park at this point, unless it's something that's requested by the community. But we'd be utilizing the existing street lighting.
Unless you had something solar or something that it doesn't make a big project out of it, There was one other thing I want to ask. I'm sorry, but I'm going to open it up to anybody else who has any questions right now.
Thank you, Steve.
I have a question. What's the cost of these units to install?
Nice.
Yeah, so you've probably seen these have been around the news the past couple of weeks. The final so these are going to be installed through public bid contract. We're going to separate these, so the final price will be negotiated between the contractor and the vendor. There's a few different options that we'll be adding on to make these a bit more New York City compliant. So we don't have final pricing on these yet, but the units themselves, maybe around the $200,000 range. But like I said, we haven't gotten a final estimate, and because parks ourselves will not be purchasing the units.
Oh, so each one of these things approximately is going to cost the taxpayers $200,000 a piece.
Just for the units themselves, and then the project requires landscaping, utility work, so the overall cost is going to be greater than that.
Okay. And a private vendor is going to monitor these things and
No,
was Parks Department's doing it?
Parks Department will be
Okay.
monitoring and maintaining. Yes. I wanted to emphasize there is not a private vendor, because there are some units throughout the city that are done by a private vendor.
Right. One more question, if you don't mind. Have
Yes,
you installed these before in cold weather climates?
We have not. So this is the first time that New York City will be using these. However, Cambridge, Massachusetts has several, and we had spoken to the DPW up there. And one of our colleagues actually has been up there and used them in the wintertime. They worked.
I can
Yes,
speak to
oh,
that.
Julie's done,
That was
so-
me. Recently,
identify.
when we had a real cold snap, I flushed one of those toilets when it was 13 degrees out. We don't get weather much colder than 13 degrees very often. But the Portland Loo folks have figured out a system to keep the toilet from the main plumbing from freezing.
Freezing, right, because
So-
usually warm water will freeze faster than cold water.
As long as it stays warm.
Yeah, I mean, they have worked out a system to prevent
Okay.
the toilet from freezing.
Okay.
If I may, I would like to address the location in the park. Looking at picture number 1, that is directly across the street from my home. Now, my question to all of you, is there anybody who would desire to have this toilet placed directly across the street from their home? And my question would be, isn't there, I understand the water lines and whatever, electricity. Someone was out in the park today checking the electrical box, which is supposedly supposed to power the dolphin fountain. But that fountain we were told that it could not operate any longer as a fountain because there is a problem with the water lines. I think that's something serious that needs to be looked into. But again, look at the location and look at the homes. Exactly where it is, there's my car, is right in front of my home. And does anybody here think that that's something that should be foisted on a longtime community member who's fought so hard for this park, first of all, to be built, to have no permanent structures, no lights? We have a ball field. Some people complained about it. I love the ball fields. I think the money could be better spent addressing the Parks Department in repairing the walking path and the park benches, which are very old, and in fixing up that fountain. Even if it doesn't work, it really is, it's become an eyesore and a danger to children climbing on it. So again, is it possible for that to be placed out of the sight of the residents here? Especially
What if
since
we-
now
what
it
if the
looks like
parks
we're
was-
the ones impacted.
Excuse me, Mary? What if the
Yes.
park was able to introduce some sort of blind shrubbery? And, then you're negating somewhat of the security, open space that they want around it, where you wouldn't even see it.
That might,
I know
might
there's
help.
one problem in New York City. There's never a bathroom around when you need it. And
No, we
I
know
know they're
that.
trying to address it and they've found a spot they think is good, but maybe there's something, Julie or Chad, Have you
I've had
thought
people
about
ring my
that?
doorbell to use my bathroom and I've let
Well,
them in.
that's what I mean. That's because,
I
you can't
understand
put a
that.
sign
I've
up for
seen
that.
people
But
use.
let's see
I
what they
agree
say
with
about
you.
that, okay, Mary? Let's see what the park says about
Okay,
possibly
please.
disguising it some way.
I will say that it has, in these renderings, it reads very strong as a big gray object. It's designed really not to stand out that much. And I know that we had this conversation, we we're speaking with Cambridge because they were having some of the same conversations with community members in Harvard Square, not particularly, and not necessarily the image that we showed, but other installations where they were closer to private homes. And they do go away. It's not that loud a structure. And I mean, I think that the truth is that we really do need more facilities. And I imagine, all the ball players in this park really need a place to use the bathroom.
I understand, but what I did ask is, do you ever put a buffer up, like some sort of screening, arborvitae's, something along those lines?
I mean, that's something that we can consider, but in general,
I would
one of
hope so.
the key aspects to the siting is having it visible from the street. Because once you add screening, you also add the possibility of undesirable activities. And that's something, especially in a park without lighting, I think there might be far more complaints about that than about this pretty small structure, 5 by 9 feet.
I have one other question about the design of the thing. Why didn't you put a urinal in there? I mean, half the people are men, and the maintenance really goes up if you only have a toilet bowl, as far as both sexes using one receptacle. Did they come with a urinal, or is that like that much to? Because that's a lot of places. I came back from California. You walk into bathrooms like this, and there's 10 urinals and 3 or 4 toilets that are indestructible. You never have to worry about them being broken down, and they're open, pretty much consistently all the time. But they do have urinals, not just bowls. So, is that an oversight, or they just decided one is enough?
I mean, these are single occupant facilities.
I'm just saying, male, female. There's a male doesn't need a bowl most of the time. So it's just a urinal. That's mostly guys use, So that's just my last question. Jerry or Fred, do you have any questions?
How long before this gets set up?
We are planning to start construction of these in probably in late 2024. We're still working out the schedule because we have a lot of permitting issues, and we're really trying to evaluate how quickly we can expedite this. There are a lot of things that are easier about this because the design of the building itself is largely done, but we still have a lot of utility work in all of the parks to design. So that is what we're working on.
Okay.
Be a hindrance if you put it
That was
on
Jerry,
the
right?
side. Yeah. Would it be a hindrance if you put it on the other side of the park, away from the houses?
The reason we cited it here was to work with the utilities, because one of the biggest drivers of costs on our projects are utility costs.
But some of those utilities, for example, the water has not been working, and that fountain has not been operational. There's also supposedly, I don't know if anything's been done, there's some kind of an underground stream. I really have a concern. I have a sewer cover on my sidewalk, not near my sidewalk, on my front sidewalk. And what if this thing starts to back up? I'm going to be stuck with the cost of sewage work. It's just, I see some of the comments that are being made by a neighbor. It's not just that it's an eyesore. It's just something that I don't think any sane person would want across the street from their home. I mean, again, I ask, even the Parks Department people, you worked with us so well 20 years ago when we said no permanent structures, no toilets. We haven't had problems. I've never had to call the Parks Department for a problem.
Excuse me,
And
Mary.
now I feel I will.
Mary,
Yes,
earlier you had your 2 minutes, and right now
I'm
it's a
sorry.
chance for the board members to
okay,
state their opinion. So
Okay.
I appreciate your comments.
all right, thank you.
Fred, was there something you wanted to say?
I just saw something in the chat which thought was interesting. Can that be turned at a 90 degrees so you don't see the flat side of it, just the skinny side of it?
Hmm.
I don't know.
So the question is to ask if it can be rotated 90 degrees roughly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's something we can look into a little bit further. The reason that we kind of placed it in this orientation was to kind of make it run parallel to the pathway, to minimize the amount of landscaping that we would need to do around it. But yeah, it's something that we could consider and look into a little bit further for sure.
One other thing I remember, toilets coming up back in the Bloomberg administration for the city of New York, and they never happened. Why now?
I'm sorry, you cut off the last little bit there.
Yeah, as I remember toilets being an issue in the Bloomberg administration.
Sure.
And it seemed it never happened. So why now? Why are we doing
I think the need for toilets has not disappeared. And we are looking at this option to provide additional bathroom facilities across the 5 boroughs. And this is one way that we're going to do that.
Hey, Julie, out of all the parks on Staten Island, how was it decided? Was there a request from the community to put it in this particular park? How was this site decided? Because I know the golf community has been asking for extra facilities at Lotterick Golf Course, and you got the walking path right at Forest Hill Road there that is heavily used, and there's no facilities. And the women have a real problem. They're so far away from the clubhouse after 3 or 4 holes that there's, it's just the natural thing happens. So everybody out there, but right at that location, Richmond Hill, Forest Hill Road would be an ideal location for this without any housing problems. If this comes to fruition or not, it's just a suggestion, but I'm wondering how this site was chosen.
This was identified as a place where toilet facilities were needed. And that's why we pursued it. Joe, you might have more to add on that.
Sure. Yeah. This site, we've been funding this porta stand here with the council member for years now. And so we get a lot of requests here through this ball field is heavily permitted. So when working with the council member, our presence office, it made sense to, eliminate the porta stand and possibly give a longer term solution here.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Does anybody else any other questions? If not, maybe at some time in the near future, you get back to me, Julie or Chad or Joe, and let us know what you think about the siding of this as far as turning it sideways, about any other decisions we've made on this, and the update on the utilities that Mary is saying aren't functioning in the park at this time. And I'm sure if you go into construction, you're going to make sure everything that's good. But I'd like to find out about that and relay that to her. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful information to hear from you about how the utilities are working. So by all means, I will alert our engineers to that issue, and we will take that into account as we develop the design.
Okay. Now, does anybody have any old business they want to bring up? And this was our new business for tonight. And with that,
wait, Stephen, I have a few updates if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So now that we're all together, I just wanted to bring a couple of parks updates to you guys' attention. Our park perimeter preservation project spring cleanups are going to be taking place starting March 29th. They'll take place every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, that is where the streets in certain areas are shut down while our parks employees do some maintenance and cleanup on some roads that are difficult to access if the road is open for our team. So that'll be like Rockland Avenue, Travis Avenue, Goethals Road North, as well as Forest Hill Road. So those will take place starting March 29th. As well as we're in the middle of seasonal hiring. So if you can believe it, beach season is coming upon us very quickly. So we are doing our hiring for maintenance, security guards, as well as recreation staff. Anyone interested in a seasonal parks position can go to nyc.gov/parks to apply for the job. And then just a couple of events that I wanted to highlight coming up. Obviously, Community Board 2 has the green belt that runs through it. So there's quite a few hikes coming up throughout the green belt where you can go out with our urban park rangers as well as our green belt educators. So this Thursday, March 16th, there's going to be an adult hike for Paulo's Peak birthday. If you guys remember last year, we 2 years ago, or was it last year? I can't remember now. Sorry. We renamed Moses Mountain in honor of former Commissioner Tom Paulo to Paulo's Peak. So our Greenbelt staff is going to lead a hike through there starting at 11 a.m. on March 16th. In addition to that, for those of you who are interested in plants and gardening, our Greenbelt Native Plant Center is offering a gardening and tour on March 24th. That's going to be at 10 a.m. and that's over at the Greenbelt Native Plant Center on Victory Boulevard. And then in addition to that, there's going to be a Signs of Spring hike over at High Rock Park on March 25th, starting at 10:30 a.m. So our Greenbelt educators will take kids, families, adults, whoever's interested to see the signs of spring, see what's growing, see the animals that are coming out, signs of animal activity and things like that. So it's a great way to get out into our parks. Obviously, some of our wooded areas, people might not be comfortable going by themselves. So this is a great way to join a group and check out our parks facilities that we're lucky enough to have here in Staten Island.
That's a lot. I noticed that the perimeter of the parks have been getting much cleaner in the last couple of years. You guys have been doing a lot of work on the edges, and I just keep seeing the trucks out there on the edges and cleaning up, not like it used to be. And the people are still littering, but I appreciate all that work.
Definitely. So yeah, we do it twice a year, spring and fall. So it's a big undertaking, but we're happy to have the support from NYPD and all the council offices to get those types of activities done because it's important.
That's a lot of stuff. A lot of good things in the Greenbelt. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Well, if that's the case, then if you guys would please get back to me about the utilities and the siding of the structure. And I appreciate that. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. We are going to PDC for this project next month.
Okay, and
So
the
we would
money's
be
been
looking
approved?
for a letter of support.
Okay, we come to a full board meeting or next month, the next full board meeting?
If we don't typically present projects also at the full board meeting.
Mhm.
Joe, I don't know how that's typically handled.
Yeah, I mean, and Deb, Stephen, you let us know what you need.
Well, if you're gonna be presented with the funding is in place and then you're gonna say this is going through, we could do a quick presentation at a full board meeting, right, Deb?
Not this month. We have a
Not
full,
this month, yeah, we'll book this
but-
month. It would have to be next month, if you don't mind.
they would like a letter of support, so we really should take a vote which way to go, but it's up to you, Steve.
That's what you need, right, Julie?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, right, we'll be in touch with you then, not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, good night, everybody, and thank you for attending tonight.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Like,
Nice night.
Good night.
Good night.